Keanu Sai. These are the things this is what it says on your program. He has a PhD in political science from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, specializing in international relations and public law. His dissertation is titled American Occupation of the Hawaiian Kingdom, beginning the transition from occupied to restored state. He served as lead agent for the Hawaiian Kingdom in international arbitration proceedings, Larson versus the Hawaiian Kingdom, the Permanent Court of Arbitration, The Hague, Netherlands, 1991 to 2001. And I know I was there, I saw him. I was grateful to be invited to be an observer. And as agent for the Hawaiian Kingdom, filed a complaint against the United States of America with the United Nations Security Council on July 5th, 2001. The other thing that I will tell you about Keanu is that he took the time to personally tutor me about looking at the Mahele and looking at the U.S. takeover in a fundamentally different way. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Dr. Keanu Sai.
Well, I guess I'll be talking to you about my area, my background, as each of us will, and then the dialogue and the question and answers. What I'd like to do is start off before we get into Hawaii's legal history. I want to make a connection today. A lot of times, or everyone today, uses the word ceded lands, the word cede. It's almost in the normal way of speaking, yeah? I've done presentations recently as maybe this past Wednesday, on the myth of ceded lands. And what I do is I get into the word cede, and I'm going to use that as the entry point into the area that I specialize in, which is international law. The word cede comes from the word cession. Okay, cession is to grant or to convey between countries. Now, the word cession or cede is an international term. It's not a domestic term used in everyday language. Okay, it's an international term. So cede or cession is to convey, okay, or to transfer from one country to another, which is territory and its sovereignty. Okay. Now, a treaty is the evidence of that cession. So cession and conveyance are one and the same. So in everyday language, when I say I conveyed a piece of property in fee simple to so-and-so, that conveyance is evidenced by a deed, a warranty deed, a fee simple title, and that's recorded and it's a public record. That same concept is applied on the international level. Between countries, they cede, which is to convey, and the evidence of that cession is a treaty. Now, it can happen two ways in international law. One, it can happen by voluntary transfer, okay, like the Louisiana Purchase between France and the United States in 1803. Or it can take place by conquest. And that was between Mexico and the United States, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that ended the Mexican-American War, that created the Rio Grande as that dividing point of the new Mexico and the new United States of America. So the word cede or cession is an international term. So right there, if it's an international term, then we need to understand why are we using that term internationally, yet domestically. So let's ensure that Hawaii, before I get into this discussion on Hawaii's status and what led us to where we are today within the framework of occupation, I need to first of all establish whether or not Hawaii was a subject of international law, a fully recognized sovereign state. Okay, and I can say with confidence that took place on November 28, 1843. That is when Great Britain and France jointly recognized Hawaii as a sovereign and independent state, called the Anglo-French Proclamation. And that day in Hawaii's history, November 28, was a national holiday, La Kuoko'a, Independence Day. So clearly, even the country at that time understood what that meant. Now, John C. Calhoun, in 1844, followed up with formal recognition of the Hawaiian Kingdom as an independent and sovereign state. Now, from that point on, between 1844 and 1893, Hawaii had over 90 embassies and consulates throughout the world, and Hawaii had foreign embassies in Honolulu. So clearly, not only was Hawaii a recognized sovereign and independent state, but it was engaged in international diplomacy, and it was also a member of the Universal Postal Union in 1881. So it speaks to the position of Hawaii. Now, with that status of Hawaii as a sovereign and independent state, let's venture now into 1893 and what happened. Now, under international law, basically what a sovereign state is that international law stems from three basic points, three fundamental points. From there, international law, you might say, is based from. One is a sovereign state has exclusive authority and jurisdiction over its territory and everyone within it, including non-citizens, okay, whether they be illegal aliens or aliens, but anybody within its territory. The second is the duty of non-intervention in the political affairs or the internal affairs of other states. What that means is the United States cannot pass a law by its Congress and have any effect in Great Britain, because Great Britain has exclusive authority over that territory to the exclusion of the United States. And then the third is the binding nature of international law upon states and treaties, okay? Now, international law is a law between states, a law between nations. Inter is between, not above. Intra is within. This is inter. So as a law between states, it's not the same as you would think of a law within a country where everyone is subject to the law. The law is above everyone. On the international realm, everyone is at par with each other, and that is the law. So what goes into play is a lot of diplomacy, a lot of negotiation, a lot of fighting, a lot of things that are indicative of this type of a legal system, which in political science we call international relations. Now, what happened on January 16th, 1893? What you basically had was illegal intervention, a violation of the second attribute of a state. The United States Marines landed on January 16th, 1893 because of a prearranged plan that was hatched between the U.S. ambassador and certain individuals within the Hawaiian Kingdom that are going to commit the crime of high treason. They want to transfer Hawaii to the United States for sugar reasons, okay? But the United States ambassador wanted Hawaii for military reasons, and thus you have that marriage that they're trying to consummate. So the plan was for the troops to land on January 16th, 1893 off the USS Boston, and they march up Mililani Street, and they fortify a location there across from the Li'olani Hale, which is where Kamehameha statue is. That was the government building. Now, that landing of the troops prompted the governor of Oahu and the Minister of Foreign Affairs to contest and ask them, the U.S. ambassador, what is the reason for this landing of U.S. troops? This is illegal. We do not give our consent. So again, you see these people playing the game of international law. Well, the U.S. ambassador is not listening. That's not part of the plan. The plan is to set up and fortify and wait for the next day, January 17th, for certain individuals to walk into Ali'olani Hale, which is the government building, and declare themselves to be a provisional government with the intent of transferring Hawaii to the United States. That was the plan.